Take your presence with us every weekend on Weekend Deal for granted. We make you a priority and we're mighty glad that you do same for us. That's why every weekend we have a different topic, something that impacts Nigeria, where we can reason together, get people who can authenticate the issue we're discussing and provide solutions and more enlightenment, just like today. We welcome you to Weekend Deal, another exciting weekend, and we'll be doing it together. My name is Thelma Obaze. This time we're going down memory lane. We urge you to stay with us, take the work with us, refresh your memory with us. Remember, our program is interactive, and we urge you to be a part of it. And you know, as we often do on the program, we give you a background of what we'll be talking about every weekend. Today is no different. And that's why Francis has put this together. And of course, we urge you to interact with us. Our feedback line is on the screen for you, just in case you've forgotten it. We expect to hear from you as our program progresses.
Once upon a time, Nigeria was the destination hub for most business investment. It was the bride to both the African continent and the world at large. It played host to both reputable local and international companies like Michelin and Dunlop Tires, Berek Batteries, Longman Bookshop, Bata Shoes, and many more. But today, the story is different as the country is littered with so many moribund companies and facilities.
In Nigeria today, Niger Steel in Ingalagu and Enugu State is in the state of moribund. Then Abia Textile Mill, Abia State, is the same thing. Standard Rubber Factory in Imo, Owerri specifically, is also the same thing. About 145 thereabout textile industry are today in the moribund state. In fact, with research and calculations, most of our moribund industry today can be valued at giving us $1 trillion annually if all are in good shape.
It is already a known fact that Nigeria's preference for imported goods also weakened the few existing industries, making some of them exit the nation's landscape for other West African countries.
Today you are having Dunlop made in South Africa, Dunlop, Japan. These companies are global companies that have their factory in various countries of the world. That is why Dunlop Japan, Dunlop South Africa. Before, we have Dunlop Nigeria. We have Michelin Nigeria. But because the energy needed to power this machine, we had rubber, which make it easier. Now you could see that today, the rubber company are dying. We have Standard Shoe Factory in Owerri, Imo State. As at the time that factory was started, if today is still on, today what you could have here, you will hear about Gucci or Ferragamo. You will hear a Nigerian made that has its own name, a designer. You can have Oluchi. You can decide to have Musa. So these are Nigerian designers that could have been able to come up and come out. Today there's a lot of shoe factories in Kano. But if we had that, you could see that as the world goes, innovations, idea is coming into play because the genius are being born.
With the collapse of most of these industries, the streets of these industries have become a shadow of itself. Thus, the ugly state of industrial estates created in the 70s to take care of rapid urbanization, industrialization, and commercialization in the country. Above all, most of them have been taken over by religious institutions. Government is not unaware of this situation, as it is determined to significantly boost the contribution of the non-oil sector to Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP). The Central Bank of Nigeria has said it plans to revive moribund firms in the non-oil export business through its 500 billion naira export stimulation facility.
You bring in partners and government come together. This industry will cost us 10 billion to fix it. In the next also year, by the estimate, you'll be able to pay back with the interest while the company continue to run. While you have to bring partnership for effective management instead of leaving it in the hand of government alone.
Weekend Deal today is captioned Reflections on Our Moribund Industries.
Thank you, Francis. We can go down memory lane together as Francis has set the tone for our conversation today. Someone said that great nations are built on wise policies, brains, as well as manpower. So for Nigeria to progress on the path of prosperity, it takes everyone, every Nigerian, to be a true patriot. Well, Dayo has been very patriotic. She's been taking a look down memory lane, and her focus has been on the state of food and beverage industries in Nigeria.
Do you remember such products as plantain margarine, Okin biscuit, Dr. Pepper, Gold Sports drink, Treat Up, Bazooka bubblegum of the 80s and 90s? Okay, let's go down memory lane. You remember Green Sans Shandy, African Candy, Tate and Lie Sugar, Goody Goody, Roberts and Bubble Chewing Gum? What about the king of biscuits, the Paco biscuit, always filling, a mother's delight for their children? These products are no longer in the market, and most of the companies have gone moribund. What could have triggered this?
In the late 70s and 80s, we witnessed some mobilization of efforts towards import substitution in Nigeria. That's because before then, Nigeria depended almost 100% on imported goods because we had a lot of foreign exchange from the oil boom. But it was a huge mistake by not diversifying. All the economic programs that we had at that time didn't reckon with the fact that the momentum at that time should be sustained. We didn't sustain it. You know, there was a nosedive.
Are the brands gone forever?
It's surprising because the food and beverage industry in particular is an industry that grows according to population of a place. If Nigeria has up to 200 million people, then what's the problem? It means that something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. If we have large population, food and beverage industry are not doing very, very well. The companies are not doing very, very well. There are questions to ask. Is it that the people don't have the purchasing power? Is it that the producers are not well incentivized? We have to find out what's the enabling environment. Is it there?
The current economic realities facing not just Nigeria but the entire world make it important to revitalize moribund food and beverage industries in Nigeria, because any country that wants to survive, especially in the post-COVID-19 economic regime, must produce most of what she consumes.
The government, first of all, should underline the necessity to diversify the economy and now have a blueprint. How do we diversify the economy? Which sectors should we prioritize? And who are the key players in these sectors? And when encouraging these sectors, you don't just look at the big players alone. You know, you try to support local production, not just for production's sake. It is the local productivity that creates the employment we are looking for. It is this local productivity that drives the GDP and all that.
No doubt, Nigerians will be happy indeed to have their favorite food and beverages brands back.
Many thanks, Dio. Often we talk about the enabling environment, but what about the people? You do know that it takes enormous sacrifice to ensure that a project can be sustained. So sometimes we need to make the effort more than once, and we need to encourage everybody around us to be less selfish and more selfless. So what's happening in Lagos? They are also taking a walk, a brisk walk that is, down memory lane. What are those industries that are no longer in existence?
Lagos remains the most populous city and the economic nerve center of the nation. It has a rich history of economic growth and transformation as it accounts for over 60% of industrial activities in the country. This hub of the nation's economy has witnessed a decline in its fortunes with the closure of some of these industries, while some have relocated to other countries within the sub-region. Stakeholders reminiscence on some of these moribund industries and give insights on what happened to them.
Dunlop. I recall very well because as far back as the 70s, it was easy to pick up a tire for your car anywhere and at a very reasonable price. They left because of course, the circumstances in Nigeria, the business situation, the environment, they could not continue the business here in Nigeria. So they moved to Ghana. Not to talk of the textile mills that were in this country. At a point, they were no longer available because these factories had closed down because of the ones that were being imported from abroad. And unfortunately, the imported variety were even a very low quality, which we could not even buy. As a secondary school my parents would take me to Bata to pick up my shoe. They would take me to Leventis. We would go to Kingsway. But all these things folded up here in Lagos.
There are so many, dead companies over the years and in various sectors, especially manufacturing. Many of them have gone. Some either relocated from Lagos and moved to Nigeria's neighboring countries or just, ceased to exist because of the harsh operating environment, the business environment. Do you understand? Became unfavorable, became tough. Do you understand? For them. And the reason for that is, one, is government policy somersault, inconsistency in government policies.
The decline of these industries that have closed down is of significant implication to the economy of the state and the country at large. What was their capacity in terms of doing business then, and what were the guiding principles?
There was what you call backward integration. Those companies, beyond providing skills, because they will train you. You have trade test 1, trade test 2, trade test 3, and these are for people, skilled workers, who operate machines. Unfortunately, we don't have those kinds of things now.
Many of them were operating at 100% capacity. There's Tate and Lyle, for example. I think whether they were in sugar or related businesses, they were doing so well. But that is used to be a very well-known brand when it comes to footwears. Dunlop tires. That's a prepared brand. Vehicle assembly plants. Whether you talk about Volkswagen, whether you talk about Peugeot, and so many others. They were operating at very, very near full capacity.
Lagos, the focal point of the nation's economy, is constantly witnessing emergence of small and medium-scale industrial activities. To forestall the occurrence of what happened to the mega industries going moribund, how then can the existing small and medium-scale industries be sustained, thereby encouraging the emergence of the larger industries?
Many of these multinational companies did not groom Nigerians who would know how to start a business, who would take over a business. They finished and they left on their own. But Nigerians now are starting their own businesses. They need now to get proper training get the good skill sets, and then train people who will take over from them.
To encourage the sustainability of industries, all stakeholders and indeed government at all levels must synergize in order to provide the right enabling environment that will support the growth of industrialization and manufacturing.
Thank you, Lagos. Quite revealing and in-depth. When you don't stand for something, you can fall for anything. So if you truly say that you are a patriot, your focus daily should be how to build sustainable development in Nigeria. ABA is standing up for something today. That's why she's taking time to have a chat with Pat Utomi to give us more insight into industries and experiences that are no longer there, and how those of us who are listening to this now can learn.
Professor Pat Utomi, you're welcome to Weekend Deal.
Thank you so very much. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So going down memory lane, we used to have many industries in Nigeria that kept the economy buoyant. Here in Edo State, we had industries like the Bendel breweries, Ale flour mills. There was a cereal making industry in Agbede. We also had furniture making that was very vibrant. And of course, art and bronze work that Benin was known for all over the world. But right now, there is a deep lull in these industries. In fact, some of them have gone moribund. Why do you think this is so?
Well, this is clearly the case of lack of clarity in terms of direction you want to travel. Our country went into industrialization early in the life of self-government in Nigeria. The philosophy that drove industrialization in Nigeria and most of Africa, in fact some of Asia, came out of Latin America from a Latin American scholar called Raúl Prebisch. And the Prebisch thesis generally came to be known as import substitution industrialization. So you take your import list and you substitute certain things and say these things we will not produce, and we will begin to localize the production of those things by using high tariff walls to prevent those things from coming in and producing them locally. So we went down that track. But we didn't have the discipline to sustain that tradition, first of all. And secondly, the world moved on. The Asians, for example, that entered the import substitution industrialization strategy alongside us, realized the deficiencies of that strategy and quickly changed their strategy to an export-led industrialization strategy. So they could competitively produce to export to the world. We kept tariff barriers around us to ostensibly allow local industry to grow. We didn't even have the discipline to sustain that. So what happened was that we became uncompetitive, and invariably import substitution industrialization crashed. Make matters worse, revenues from oil made us believe we could import anything from anywhere. And so it got much further worse. And what Nigeria did go through, in some ways still going through, is a process of deindustrialization. And if there's one thing this country desperately needs, it is to industrialize, because that's where we'll provide jobs for a huge youth bulge that we have, this teeming population. If we invest appropriately in these young people, we invest in creating an appropriate industrial strategy, we will reap a demographic dividend from the youth population.
Can you now please, once more, itemize what Nigerians need to do, to bring us back to those good old days,
yes,
to make us compare with some of these nations that you have mentioned?
Yes. The starting point, in my view, is to recognize that sustainable wealth, sustainable progress depends on production, not on revenues.
Assuming now the government wants to look at reviving that flour mill, what do you think they should be looking at?
Well, let's look at our endowments.
Okay.
That flour mill was not based on a local endowment. It was based on a substitution logic that we can import
So it was
wheat.
the wrong idea from the start.
Yes. if we took something that you can produce...
What about blended breweries, for instance?
The same thing affected the brewing industry. When that ban was imposed by the government, he went to Netherlands, to their corporate head office, Heineken, and said, I want research to help me brew beer completely with local Nigerian content and the same taste as the beer, star beer we were brewing. They said, Felix, this is what we have to do, but if you want, we'll do it. And they did. And as they were getting close to it, Nigeria unbanned the importation of malted barley. And it's easier for them to just import the thing than do all that work locally. So all the efforts that they made suddenly lost because policy discipline was absent.
Okay, so let's leave the breweries for a moment. What about reviving the furniture industry in Nigeria? Because now it's cheaper, more convenient to buy these imported brands. Big furniture makers, it's like they don't make so much, not enough patronage to keep them in business. Yeah. So how can that sector be revamped?
And that is the point that I make about limited industrial policy. The strategy that I recommend today in structural economics is referred to as latent comparative advantage. When you take a factor endowment, and that factor endowment that you have, you provide not the general ban on importation that we did under import substitution, but you say this particular area we have an endowment. You cannot import anything for X number of years. These are incentives for the industry to become competitive within 7 years. 7 years from now, they should be competitive enough to be exporting and not care whether or not there's a ban on importation or not. And then you can easily drive the ascendancy, not just for them to become very busy, but to be busy producing and exporting and selling locally competitively against whoever is bringing whatever from elsewhere. And it can be done.
Yeah. We want to, on this note, thank you so very much for being on Weekend Deal this morning.
Great pleasure.
Thank you. And that's all from our Benin Network Center. Is back to you in Abuja.
Thank you, ABA, for the chat with Professor Pato Tomi, taking a look down memory lane. We must learn something from that in-depth discourse. We must take something away, that the prosperity of our country depends on each and every Nigerian. We all have a role to play, and we must learn from the experiences of the past to build a solid future. While reading now from Akinola Ololade from Ilorin in Kwara State. Akinola says that some problems confronting industries in Nigeria are power, draconian tax, poor enabling environment, and the attitude of Nigerians to local production. Nigerians have been described as people who like to consume the most sophisticated things. We must learn to make these things right here. You're watching Weekend Deal. Continue to interact with us. We want to hear from you. We'll take a break now. We'll be back. You are watching Weekend Deal, the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. We have been taking a walk, a very memorable walk, that is down memory lane, focusing on Nigeria, industries that were in existence, that made great impact on Nigerians and are no longer here in the country. We want to know the why, the where, the who, and then what we can learn from those experiences so we can build on the future. From the western part of Nigeria, we touched down in Oyo State. What are those industries that we grew up knowing about, learning from, purchasing goods from, that are no longer in Nigeria? Do tell us.
Industries play a major role in the economic growth of any country. They are the backbone of the economy, sustaining development from the grassroots. They create jobs, various sources of income, wealth, and contribute to the improved standard of living of the populace. No country desirous of rapid economic progress can afford to neglect industrialization. However, some industries are now moribund. Some of the moribund industries within Oyo State includes the Nigerian Gas Cylinder Manufacturing Company, located in Lalukmo, Lagelu local government area of Oyo State. Commissioned on 26 June 1984 by Lieutenant Colonel Oladayo Popola, the company had the mandate of producing gas cylinders, but has since gone out of operations. Other industries include Atlantic Carpet, Leland Motors, Nigerian Tobacco Company (NTC), and African Regional Center for Engineering Design and Manufacturing (ASADEM) are all no longer in operations. Looking at the glory days of ASADEM, an industry set up with the objective of enhancing African capabilities for engineering design and manufacturing, the officer in charge of administration shared his experience and the capacity of the organization before it went moribund.
It was very interesting in those days. Basically, the place was established as a research institution. So we bring participants. We train people here how to use their hand on engineering to fabricate small parts for small-scale industry. So, and participants used to come from African countries, having training programs here. And then this place used to bubble.
Some respondents spoke with nostalgia about the period when some of these industries were in operation.
By the name, African Regional Center for Engineering Development and so, I covered the opening ceremony of that factory or industry as a staff of the old NTV Badon. The commissioning. What we were told by the name was that it will be an engineering, research and development center for about 15 African countries, Nigeria inclusive. So why is IITA still thriving? IITA came into Ibadan in the 1960s. It's still thriving. It's because local authorities, once local and national, once they dabble into the industrial run of these companies, they get derailed.
I'm so happy when these companies were existing, especially the Exide battery. We know that we are not looking forward to abroad before we get a better battery. And when the Leland emerged, we thought the vehicle's price will slice down. And everybody was so happy that at least we will get something from there. But as things goes on, we don't know what really happened. Maybe the problem of the company or the people that are working there, everything just went down. And we are looking forward that maybe they will rise up again until they totally fold up.
If some of these industries are revived and repositioned, it is believed that it will create jobs, reduce crime rates, and widen government tax base.
Thank you, NTA Badon. Industries succeed because people make it so. And sometimes industries fail because people let it happen. Talking about reviving industries and getting them to succeed, it takes all hands on deck. From Ibadan, we'll go to Enugu. Let's see what they'll be telling us from that part of Nigeria.
Industries are the economic backbone that fuels any country. Enugu State, being the pride of the eastern region of Nigeria, had many of them. This made the city of Enugu bubble with economic activities, as most youths were engaged in one job or the other. Today, the story is different, as some of these companies are no longer in operation. Starting with the first steel company in West Africa called Niger Steel, located at Emene in Enugu, founded in 1961, with the sole purpose of producing construction and building materials of all sorts, with a capacity of over 500 staff strength. A reference point in her peak days, but now a shadow of itself. A trip to its location revealed high-class equipment lacking in activity for years. The few machines left were rusty and dormant, waiting for someone to wake them up. Niger Gas Limited, also situated at Emene Enugu, was a moderate company with about 150 staff strength. And according to a former general manager of the company, it had sales depot all over Niger. When we visited the company site, we met with dilapidated buildings and obsolete equipment that had inactivity written all over it.
I would say the operating business environment, business and industrial environment in the country, which eventually extended to states. So when they look at the situation and they find maybe they're unable to cope with the foreign exchange demand to get some of these things, these are one of the things.
Sunrise Flour Mills, Emene, is another gigantic edifice that was established to bridge the need in the area of flour in Enugu State and beyond. A former general manager of the company said they had a capacity of about 300 staff strength.
Sunrise Flour Mill, like the name implies, produces flour. It's not used for bread baking. And it is a company that came at a time when the demand for bread was very high.
Coal mining in Nigeria began in 1916, having earlier been discovered by the British geologist in 1909. Coal production in the popular Onyama, Eva Valley, Ogbete and Okpara mines rose strictly from 25,511 tons in 1916 to its peak of 905,397 tons in 1958. Decline, however, began in 1967 due to the outbreak of the Civil War, and coal production eventually stopped in the year 2002 when the last coal mines were shut down. Research shows that these companies did not collapse or fold overnight. Some of the contributing factors were traced to differences in interest from successive government to bad management. Industrial experts added that although these industries had the potential to yield revenue for the state if well harnessed, and even boost the activities of small and medium enterprises, but they were not given priority attention.
Government should not get involved in managing an industry. Any industry in this country could diversify, that could be made private sector driven. But the issue is that the environment has to be good.
More so, there are no better way of attracting development in the state except through a deliberate plan to look inwards and put the state on the production line again.
I have every confidence that that we will rule the world if we show patriotism in our purchases, if we show patriotism with products made in Nigeria.
No doubt, these industries, if revived and well managed, will drive sustainable economic growth and, most of all, provide employment to the teeming youths of Enugu State.
NTA Enugu, wow, you took us down memory lane indeed. Talking about flour mill, talking about coal, so much has happened. But it's on this foundation that we can continue to build. That's why the Weekend Deal crew had a chat with Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliu, is a politician, an entrepreneur, and an industrialist.
When you talk of North, Kano, that has the second largest industrial estate after Ikeja, back in the days, had Union Carbide, you had some textile companies, you had sweet companies, candy companies,
you had sugar, you had assorted drinks also, and so many other things that were thriving back in the days. So many furniture factories as well. Back in the days, in the 80s and 90s. And unfortunately, so many things that have happened. One, when the country, in the wisdom of all of us, maybe the governments of those days and up till now, decided to probably turn our heads away from ensuring we have electricity. Because back in the days, petroleum products were much cheaper. So the companies could afford to go on either NEPA back then or on self-powered machines. But then gradually the petroleum products started going higher. Then foreign exchange regimes, different government with different regimes of foreign exchange, where manufacturers had no access to foreign exchange or at exorbitant rates, closing down. And then recently, years, maybe 10, 15, 20 years back, insecurity started to come into the country, where investors were getting scared to invest in this country. So cumulatively, we've lost these things due to sadly lack of planning by successive governments, that the government did not take care of the foreign exchange regimes, the trade regimes that were in place back in the days, when there was a government in this country, when there were people that had businesses in their briefcases getting import licenses at the detriment of industries. So that has happened in this country. So those kind of things did not help matters. And, as I said also honestly, the work culture of our people, that's why this petroleum boom, it's to me a curse to this country, because it made all of us lazy. Even in terms of agriculture, the agriculture went dead virtually. If you remember back in the days when the cocoa, the cotton, the groundnut, the palm oil, and so on, we all forgot about that. And all these are also part of the industry that were thriving, but they're all gone because of one, electricity, different regimes, different foreign exchange regimes, and also tax. There were times when multiple taxation also drove some, factories under. Also, the banks did not help matters, because it is only in Nigeria that back in the days, banks were charging 30-something% interest. Even now, it's not much different, because banks are still charging 20-something%. So you find out that industries don't have access to cheap funds. Now, only government, if you go like through these development banks that are about, and the government has put like the Bank of Industry and so on and so forth. But how much can they do? They can't do much. So you find out that banks are not also helping matters. The banks in this country have not deliberately made an attempt to help in industrializing this country. It is only now that the central bank is forcing the banks to give out loans. Like I know central bank charges them penalty for lack of giving loans. But then you take the loans, you can't pay because of taxation, multiple charges of the banks also, and so on. So these are all the things that have made us backward really in terms of the industries. Taxation, health matters. You can see in this country, even as at today, a lot of people will rather, smuggle goods from Benin Republic because of the taxation in this country. Also because of the level of corruption as well. You find out that if you import a container into this country, the toll gates you meet at the port, the ease of doing business that this government keeps talking about, mostly it's on the on the lips of the leaders. But when you practically, as a businessman, you go to import something or bring out anything in this country, it's so difficult for you to take it out of the ports. So why do you have to come here? Why don't you go to Ghana or Benin Republic or Cameroon, where you have much easier way of clearing your goods and so on. Also, as I said, taxation also. Multiple taxation in this country is still high, and the government needs to look at that to ensure that, look, you give even tax holidays, because now COVID also came. Government needs to look at taxation. I know government is looking for money, but then you need industries to work for you to make the money. So taxation is part of the thing that people are taking their business out of this country. Also, issue of power. This issue of power is a very serious matter. We still can't get it right. 40 years ago, we've been talking of this. 30 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years ago, government keeps telling us that we'll get this electricity. Up till today, we're boasting of 5,000, while countries like probably Ghana might be, but it's a population of about 11 or 15 million, have per capita, the kind of electricity they generate in Ghana. We don't do it here. So that is also helping, the industries to leave this country. It's so expensive now to go on, your own power. If you have to buy diesel, diesel has been deregulated. It goes for about 260 naira now per liter, and so and most of the industries, 99% of the industries in this country are not on national grid because the power it's not there. That's the truth. So the government needs to look at this to ensure it goes beyond lip service, that this electricity issue it's tackled head on. Then insecurity these days, you cannot convey. I remember in 2014 January, Emirates were to start flying into Kano on a Saturday. Now 9 places were bombed on a Friday, January 2014. So they left. I have a factory and I have a farm, and we bought greenhouse from Holland. When we asked them to come, they said that this country is on the red zone. I mean, my part of the country, northern part of the country. So generally, Nigeria is not safe for them. So why would you come to a country that is not safe? The government of this country, not this government alone, from probably Obasanjo, they've done very well for the furniture industry, because furniture importation is banned up till today in this country. And the furniture factories have really done well, because there's no kind of furniture that will not be produced in this country. But sadly, it's more expensive to buy furniture made in Nigeria than imported. All it comes down to the cost, the additives. How do the production cost? Electricity, security, water. You have to provide your infrastructure. So you still find out that smuggled furniture still sell cheaper than made in Nigeria. But in terms of quality, I can assure you that Nigerian furniture manufacturers they can compete with any furniture factory in the world. So in terms of furniture, I don't think there are so many furniture companies that have gone down. So many have also come up, really. So in that regards, I think probably as a people, we've not done very badly. Well, textile, not only in Kaduna. In Kano, we had Kano Tex, Gaskia Tex, so many textile, but 90% of them are dead now. I've told you why most of them are dead. Bujo, Volkswagen, Leyland, the other one in Ibadan, I can't remember. I think Leyland in Ibadan, Anamco, Mercedes in Enugu, Steyr in Bauchi. Sadly, also government came with the privatization, sold them off, and then the companies that bought them over couldn't continue. Why? You invest your money, but then the government comes with sledgehammer of taxation and so on. and or access to foreign exchange when you need money to import some of CKDs and so on. So these things are not helping matters. So I think government needs to really look at these industries, why they are dead. I told you. What can the government do to sustain them? Probably, some tax holidays, honestly, to make people do it. Let's take example for Ajakuta. Left to me, Nigerian government should invite anybody, from anywhere, whether from Nigeria, a Nigerian or anybody in the world, to give that place free. Just come and run it for us. Run it, take your money, and give it back to us after 10, 20, 50, 30 years. Without government, because government does not have money to, these things. I know some engineers that have graduated as people engineer in Ajakuta, retired engineers without practicing engineering. These things are there all over the place. A Niger Steel mill is there, Just Rolling Mill, Katsina Rolling Mill. All these things were done back in the days, but now they are not working. And so government needs to really critically, those that are not privatized, like Ajakuta, which is giant. I mean, some of the machines are even obsolete. That's why I said the government should look at giving it free. Somebody to come and just run it. Because if nothing, you have a lot of Nigerians, working there and benefiting the country. No, it's not true. I mean, I can start mentioning like Doing Group in Lagos. Eleganza industry is there. You can't say he's not an industrialist. Dangote is there. You can't say he's not an industrialist. Bua is there. You can't say he's not an industrialist. Yeah, and so many other industries who are patriotic Nigerians. I mean, like the eleganza of a guy who had been there and continued to thrive. And sometimes, honestly, they are just doing it for doing sake. If you probably ask him, why is he still in business? He will probably tell you that he's doing it out of patriotism, that he has made his money back in the days and he's just flying back. Not because he's making money. A lot of them, Dangote is also doing well. And, so many industries are there. But then they need government support. And thank God I've seen 2 days ago, the government gave out a contract to Dangote, 300 billion, for tax holiday. So that kind of a thing, that will help. If nothing, Nigerians will work, he will employ more people, he will have tax holiday, and so it is like buying back from us. Going back to all this might be extremely difficult because now Nigeria is not an island. The global issue now. There is global, recession in the world, the economy of the whole world. It's not like in it, but then discipline, of the government, the policies of government that keep changing. Like Central Bank of Nigeria will tell you now that you can't have access to foreign exchange for certain things, no matter how good you think they are. Some of these things need to be reviewed. Some of this somersault of policies. Today they will come up with something, tomorrow they will change, while somebody would have planned his thing. So the government needs to articulate issues for, say, 5-year development plan that industrialists will plan based on government resolve that, look, we are going to do this and that and so on. Then people will do their budgets, do their calculation based on government intervention, but not when this year government will say this, the following year they will come with another policy. These kind of things do not help matter. So if government looks into that, and probably through the NSE, the Economic Committee, have a meeting, Manufacturers Association, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industry, sit together. Look, now we don't have the monopoly of wisdom. How do you think we should, reindustrialize this country? And I think the businessmen and women, will be willing to contribute.
Honest introspection will pay us well, especially at this time when we're taking a look at the way things were done in the past that sometimes had negative results and the way we can do things in the future. We have been having a chat with Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliu, entrepreneur, industrialist, politician. I'll take one comment before we go to Joss. Matthew Wachuku reaches us from Port Harcourt and he says, greed among technocrats and short-sightedness is one of the major reasons for having moribund industries in Nigeria. We go to Joss. Tell us more.
Industrialization is the major component for development in any nation. Nigeria's economy has phenomenal growth, with small-scale industries taking pivotal role in the industrialized sector. Plateau State was the hub of industrial activities in north-central Nigeria years back.
JIB has been in the front burner of this government to revive it. We had useful discussions, fruitful discussions with investors from Netherlands last year, and in the course of that, they showed interest to the extent that the governor even visited the embassy here in Nigeria, Abuja. And the unfortunate thing is that the EndSARS protest that took place last year led to the vandalization of most of the equipment that were there, and so it's a double challenge. We're looking for an investor, and then this unfortunate incident took place, which took us back again. But of course, we are not relenting in our efforts. The Plateau State Investment Company is exploring other investors as well who have expressed interest.
The 66-years-old Panyam fish farm, reputed to be Nigeria's largest fish farm, with a capacity to produce 4.9 tons of fish, the fertilizer blending plant, the famous Jos International Breweries, Highland Bottling Company, just to mention a few, are Plateau State-owned companies. But today, these companies are at various stages of decay, except for Highland Bottling Company that is currently being managed by a private investor.
The famous Panyam Fish Farm, it's another gold mine that has had greater challenges in the past. But to God be the glory, we have investors that are interested. We had an investor who did not show true sense of capacity to really revive the industry. And so today we're happy that we have investors. They've come to express interest, defended their proposal in the presence of the Plateau State Economic Council.
The Naraguta Leather Works has been in existence for over 100 years. In the past, it contributed to generating revenue and job opportunities for over 5,000 people. But now, the story has changed. Only few private industries, like NASCO group of companies managed by foreigners and Grand Cereals of UAC, are still in business and has evolved over the years to become a conglomerate.
Starting the first jute bag industry in Nigeria, which was sited here in Jos in 1963. So that was what gave birth to what we now know as the NASCO conglomerate. It started with a jute bag, then we metamorphosed into cornflakes production, biscuit production, detergent, real estate. We are in several other segments of Nigeria. And for us, we liken our story to the growth and development of Nigeria. So most times you hear a typical NASCOnian, we call ourselves NASCOnian, a NASCO person will tell you that we are proudly Nigerians.
The present government has designed economic framework for a well-structured industrialization drive, which include SMEs in different areas of business endeavor. Government, investors, and all stakeholders must come together to revamp the sector.
We often talk about coming together, all hands on deck. And one can assume that if we truly are coming together and working together, we'll make progress faster. Thank you, NTA Just. That was in-depth, analytical, and very introspective. You're watching Weekend Deal. We've been taking a walk down memory lane. We have looked, we have walked from different parts of Nigeria, and we continue to do so. A break beckons now. We'll be back and then we'll talk with the guest. When we walk and work together, we can truly make progress. And we quickly take this message from Fidelis from Delta State. He says focus should be given to Delta Steel Company and Asaba Textile Mill. What we want to know is what are the state of these companies. Indeed, we've got to the peak of our package weekend deal. We enjoyed your contributions and we thank you. Taking a look at Nigeria, our walk from before independence, all through 1960 up till now. Some things that were here are no longer here. New things are incoming. We build on the experiences from what happened in the past so we can build a prosperous future. And everyone must be involved. Can I take our last message? Yes, Ayam Awuna reaches us from Calabar. And this is his unusual suggestion. He says that perhaps government can enable Nigerian youths without strings attached to run some of these industries that are challenged, either financially or otherwise, because they can bring ingenuity and vibrance to these companies, and they can use the build, operate, and transfer method. Ayam Awuna reached us from Calabar. We thank you for watching. We urge you to join us again tomorrow morning as we continue with this package. We're taking an in-depth look at our country because together we believe that we can do better and we can do more. God bless Nigeria. Bye-bye.